Okay, looks like we are live. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ross Burns. This is the Burns Eye View, and I'm very excited to be with you all here this morning to talk with JB and figure out what do we still have left to do to convince JB to be a Christian. Like, what's the holdup here, guys? What's the deal? Like, he's talked to some pretty awesome Christians so far. Myself and dry apologist and London theist and many more. So, what is it that we're gonna have to do to convince this guy to get over on our side? But anyway, so thank you for being here, JB, so we can have this discussion and get to know you a little bit more, because I know you're always having conversations with other people. So it's nice to figure out what's going on with you for once. So how are you this morning, JB?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Glad to talk to you. You said that you wanted to reach out and talk to me whenever I had you on my channel. So here I am returning the favor. So it's good to talk to you.
Awesome. So why don't we start from the beginning? So name, date of birth, social security number. Yeah.
um, actually, well, everybody knows me as JB. We'll just keep it as simple as that. Date of birth. Actually, yesterday was my birthday. So
Oh
I don't
well,
know if you saw that on Twitter. So
happy birthday.
thank you. I was born in '83. I just turned 37 yesterday. So I'm starting to get to be old.
Yeah. Well, you're not that old. You're
Yeah,
you're
getting there.
you're still youthful. All right, awesome. Well, that's cool. So, yeah. So, where are you from originally?
Born and raised in South Carolina.
Born and raised in South Carolina. Is that where you're still at now?
Yeah, that's where I'm still at. Been here my whole life. Same area for the most part.
Awesome. Now, I know there's like a lot of there's a lot of different barbecue in South Carolina. Like, I know if you go, at least in my experience, if you go west, you can even find that like weird Alabama mayonnaise sauce. So, like, what in your opinion is like the barbecue of South Carolina?
I, I'm a ketchup base person. I know that's considered blasphemy down here for the most part. A lot of where I'm from is mustard base, but I've just I've always been a fan of the ketchup base. So that's just it's just what I go with. I can eat the mustard, but just I don't prefer it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the oh boy. So Spartan Theology asked, would JB rather become a Clemson fan or a Christian?
We'll address that. I,
Okay.
I I've got a perfect way to address that once we get to it.
Okay. All
So
right.
you're gonna have to stick around, Spartan. We're gonna give you a little teaser.
Okay. That was good. Yes, that's smart marketing right there. All right. Awesome. Yeah, so you grew up in South Carolina. You had some barbecue that I would recognize as a northerner. So I mean that's all good right there. And so what was your kind of your theological background growing up? Like what was the I don't know, what was the religious milieu that you knew originally?
um, well, I grew up in a household with a single mom. My parents divorced when I was real young. Um, didn't do much church going when I was growing up. My mom wasn't a big fan of it. My mom was still a Christian, but she wasn't a going to church Christian. She was giving thanks and saying that a God exists and stuff like that. And so that's what I was raised on for the most part. Now, both of my grandmothers were diehard church goers. Both of them were involved in all aspects of the church. Both of them were at church every Sunday, most of the time on Wednesdays. They were, huge in the church. As a matter of fact, the church that I was married in is the same church that I grew up in, and you can walk to the graveyard behind the church. And my great grandmother, my great grandparents, my grandparents on both sides, my aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, so are all buried back there. So I mean, they've all been in that church since it was a single building before they ever, upgraded with the chapel and stuff that they have now. Um, so whenever I would say when my parents divorced, my dad lived with my grandma for a while. So on weekends that we stayed with my dad, a lot of times we were going to church because my grandma was, you're going to church. So so we did that. And my cousin lived with my other grandmother. So any Saturday night, my grandma on my mom's side of the family had a rule that she'd have anybody spend the night on Saturday on the weekends that wanted to come over and spend the night. But regardless of who you were, if you spent the night on Saturday, you better bring church clothes because you're going to church with them on Sunday. So anytime I was with my grandma or stayed over with my cousin on Saturday night, we were up on Sunday morning going to church. And I didn't mind. I liked church for the most part. I did the whole Sunday school thing growing up, which you learn basically it's coloring and you learn who Noah and Moses are. That's really the high points that you get out of that. And then so that's about where I grew up. As far as my religious background, I wasn't big into religion until after I got serious with my wife. Whenever we were dating, and she started taking me to a church every Sunday, and it got to the point where I liked going to church, and it wasn't a hassle. I didn't feel obligated to go. It was, we were going, and then we changed churches and started going back to the church that I grew up in a little while before we got married, because she wanted to get married in a church that she considered her church. So we did some church hopping, and ended up getting married in the church that I grew up in, and we were attending it because she wanted to have our kids raised in the church. So that's about me. Pretty much Methodist my entire life. I did some Southern Baptist with the hellfire and brimstone preaching, and did trying to think. I did some Sundays in a Lutheran church because we were going with a buddy of mine when we were doing some church hopping. So that was kind of weird because they actually do wine instead of grape juice, and they do wine like every Sunday. So it was a little bit different.
Yeah, that's like a legit Lutheran church right there. Pulling out all the stops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these churches try to be seeker sensitive, but I mean, the Lutherans they're bringing the alcohol, so they're really trying. So, still go with me, JB? Yep, there you go. Just a stream hiccup. Well, you're back, so that's all there is to it. All right, so yeah, so interesting. So your background was a lot of Methodist, some Southern Baptist sprinkled in, and that one crazy Sunday at the Lutheran church.
It was more than one Sunday, but okay. Yeah, it was mainly Methodist. I'd have to say, if I did a breakdown on it, it's probably, giving it rough figures, we'll say 92% Methodist, 6% Southern Baptist, and 2% for the Lutheran. So I mean, it's, I just consider myself always being a Methodist because that's, even when I went to the Baptist church, I was like, this isn't what I'm used to.
Right.
So,
what were some of the differences between the?
Well, I don't know how much you know about the Southern Baptist around here.
Well, I'm a Southern Baptist. Well, at least I'm part of a Southern Baptist congregation in the North, so it might be different. Okay. I don't know. So
they're around here. They preach more about So where I was with the Methodist was basically a bunch of Jesus is love and heaven is glorious and you can't wait to be with Jesus and forgiveness of sins. Whereas a lot of the Southern Baptist talk is we're all destined for hell, and it's only because Jesus saved us that we're not going there, because we're evil, wretched human beings who don't deserve to stand in front of the glory of God, but He's giving us the grace to do it anyway. And a lot of the repent because you exist kind of preaching, which I wasn't a fan of because I never really asked to exist in the first place. I was just kind of here.
Make an interesting T-shirt: repent because you exist.
That
Who
might.
knows?
That might.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of experience with Methodist churches, so it's interesting to hear that. Um, okay, so are you in your at this point you're in your like your 20s and you're going to church pretty regularly, doing that whole thing, trying to find a permanent spot and that kind of thing. At this point, like would you consider yourself like a Christian? Like you're a believer and all that kind of stuff, or what was your thinking with all that?
Oh yeah, I was a Christian. That was no question. Hold on, I want to pull this up. All right, cool. I got a. Where's my Zoom not opening back up? Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry. It minimized you to the corner.
Oh man.
I was I was trying to find a I have a pinned tweet that's got dates on it of pretty much like when I pretty much stopped believing for the most
Oh,
part. So I was kind of pulling it up just to kind of keep track of the years and stuff because it's hard to do that. Just so I had a reference. I wanted to know what I was thinking about. So I'm 37. I've been married for almost 11 years, just over 10 and a half. So I was 26 when I got married. So I was in mid 20s probably when my wife and I went and found a church to call our own.
okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So I kind of got an idea what's going on now. So talk me through what was it that started to, uh, where was it when things started to go, well, I don't know if wrong is the word you would use, but things started to change. When was that? What was that like?
Um, well, I went to church and I've never been. As a matter of fact, I have no problem saying this, as many people who call themselves atheists will probably, you know, say it too. But I've spent more time looking into religion since I've walked away from it and am no longer a believer than I did when I was, because I consider myself a Christian and that's all that mattered to me. It didn't matter to me what a denomination was, what the beliefs of the church were. It was Christian as far as I was concerned. Catholic, Lutheran, Baptist, all of it. Um, so I had a good buddy of mine who I used to talk to regularly. I'm a truck driver, so I spend long days out pretty much in solitude. So I spend a lot of time on the phone talking with people. And had a buddy of mine that I have known for years. And he was I guess the best way to say it is he's a biblical literist. Not sure if he's a younger creationist. We haven't never had that discussion, but pretty much it's in the Bible. That's what it is. He believes in conspiracy theories of a new world order coming because it's mentioned in the Bible, and a one world government being the sign of an antichrist, and Illuminati and Jews are not saved by God any longer, and just a whole plethora of stuff. And after spending many a days having conversations with him and finding places where him and I disagreed, and to where I basically look at his theology and I'm like, this doesn't even look like any form of Christianity that I understand. I went back and started looking into, different aspects of the religion. I think one of the places that we first started was, and it's going to bother me that I can't remember this because it's either in Isaiah or in Ezekiel. I can't remember which one because there's two references. The whole thing of Lucifer and the morning star.
Yeah, I think it's
We would have this.
Isaiah 14. Just
Okay,
for those
I
keeping
know
track
I
out
know
there.
No, I know there's a reference in Isaiah and there's one somewhere in Ezekiel that people point to as far as like, the evil Satan being in the Old Testament. Outside of Job, because everybody knows, where it's at in Job. Um, so we're having discussions about that, and I was looking into it because I was like, I don't think that's how that works. And, the whole situation where, I mean, I don't know. I haven't read up on the scholarship on it. It's one of the things that I wanted to have a discussion about with some, some people that actually know this stuff to get a better understanding of it. As a matter of fact, it was on my list for whenever I actually get to talk to Rabbi Singer, that it's, one of the things that we're going to address. But it was just different understandings of things, and I just I didn't see where he was coming from as far as an understanding on it. So I started to try to dive deeper into, what it actually is and try to gain a better understanding of it. And so upon doing so, one of the first things I dove into was trying to get an understanding of the Trinity, which to this day, I've not heard a coherent understanding of. It all seems like mumbo jumbo to me. But that wasn't necessarily what led me down the path. It was, so sorry, I'm kind of rambling here. So one of the first things I did was dive into the Trinity and started listening to understandings from Trinitarians, and then from, I think they're called Unitarians. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get an understanding on what that is. So I would listen to discussions and sermons and things like that from the two perspectives and try to figure out which one was right. I had a hard time figuring that out. And finally I said, you know what? I said, Christianity came out of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew. We're going to go back to the beginning. So started listening to rabbis speak, the different rabbis speak. And naturally, if you search rabbis on YouTube, one of the ones that's going to come up is you're going to find stuff on Tovia Singer. Wasn't the only one that I listened to. But that's probably like the prominent one out there as far as like video stuff goes, And I mean, it just dawned on me that everything that they understood from the Old Testament is completely different from the entire way that it had been explained to me growing up. And I mean, it's almost like, I see the London Theist was in the chat. I don't know if he's still there or not, so he'll kind of understand this. If you look at it to where Judaism can be England and Christianity is Australia, where at one point Australia was part of England, and Christianity at one time was part of Judaism, and now they've separated and gone their separate ways. But if I want to get a better understanding of Judaism, the one that started it, I don't go to Christianity to understand it. I need to go back to Judaism to actually get a better understanding of it. And I waffled with that for a while. A lot of things in Judaism made sense to me. Wasn't ready to go be, to become a Jew and actually practice it and stuff like that. And
giving up pulled pork, that would be kind of hard, man.
You know what? I'll be 100% honest with you. I had a discussion. I had made a comment off the wall one day to my wife, and I don't think she took me as serious as I sounded. And I said, I said, if I could give up bacon, I'd probably be a Jew. So yeah, and then going back and understanding how Judaism sees everything as opposed to how Christianity sees it, I can't see, and I could be looking at it wrong, and I'm willing to admit that I can see things, completely wrong. And I just don't see how the two come together to form a coherent belief system. And I mean, everybody has interpretations, and I mean, it's weird because if you talk to them, it's like you talk to the Christians and they're like, well, this is our understanding of this passage. And then if you talk to the Jews, it's, well, this is our understanding of the same passage. and it's hard to nail any one of them down, on which one is the way it's supposed to be. So after trying to gain an understanding of it better, I finally just kind of threw up my hands and I said, I said, okay, I said, let me find out if either of these are correct. And then once you start, I was never big on philosophy. I'm still not. I like to understand the concepts. I hate philosophy when it's considered what I consider weaponized as somebody that just wants to say, well, that's a fallacy, instead of trying to actually have a discussion with you. Yeah, I can give you a statement and it can have a fallacy in it, but you can still understand the point that I'm trying to get to. We can still have a discussion from there. So just once I started learning more about it, I went back and I just realized that none of it made sense to me on the grand scale. I mean, it just, because once I questioned the beliefs that I've grown up with my entire life, I started questioning everything, because at that point you're just pulling threads and it's all, unraveling the more you pull. Sorry, that was a little long-winded.
No, I appreciate it. That was good. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, London Thea says great points on the philosophy from JB, and he loves your bacon comment. So there's that. Spartan asked a question I was kind of interested in too. Would you say so? You talked a lot about kind of the problems that you saw with just how different the interpretations of Judaism and Christianity were, and like how are you able to tell who's right, and why are they so different? What role did the I don't know, the Christian hypocrisy that you saw, especially the harsh messaging from the Southern Baptists where you were from? What role did any of that play, if any, in your journey out of Christianity?
That, I wouldn't say that played any part. I wouldn't say that played any part in it. Now, I can't tell you for a definite that didn't have, some kind of background, role in what I was doing, but knowing, to me, there wasn't anything there. Because like I said, I did the Southern Baptist thing, and then from then left that and went and did another, roughly 10 years of back into the Methodist church. So I mean, it wasn't, to left there, went to Lutheran and Methodist, and that was probably roughly another 10 years after that. So I mean, I wouldn't say that did anything. And like I said, I mean, I could be wrong on how all that worked, but.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I'm tracking with you. That makes sense. So you're at the point where so you would consider yourself at this point an agnostic and not so much an atheist, or how would you I don't know, if you had to label your t-shirt as something, what would it say?
I don't know, and I'm not going to try to find it yet. I'm not going to try to find it now. Excuse me. But I put a comment on Twitter yesterday and hopped into somebody else's conversation about stuff, and it was somewhere along the lines of, I made a comment of because somebody was a Christian and said that something like, they don't, and I'm paraphrasing, so if I get it wrong and somebody tracks it down, don't hold me to it. I'm kind of spitballing off the top of my head, but it was something of they think that Christianity is something is a thing of a belief and not something that you can actually definitively prove to anybody as far as whether a God exists or not. And I mean, that's fine. I've got no problem, with people who say those kinds of things. And that's, I mean, you follow me on Twitter. I mean, you can check my Twitter feed. How often do I have interactions with Christians that are just, happy-go-lucky, off-the-hip conversations that don't have ill intentions into them, that are just basically, discussions that are, I think, are somewhat thought-provoking and to give me a better understanding, of how people see things. But my response to that was something like, I have a hard time putting myself in a box. Some days I feel like an atheist. Some days I feel like an agnostic. Some days I wake up and think about it, and the entire concept of God just seems incoherent to me, and I lean towards atheism. Sometimes I lean towards somewhere in the agnostic realm of, that I don't think that it's possible to know anything about a God, that even if does one exist, that there's no way that we can know anything about it. Because I mean, it's God. I mean, it would be so far, ahead of us. I don't know if there's anything that we could understand about it. So it varies. And as much as I hate Jordan Peterson, um, and he's one of the people that I think what tries to weaponize philosophy. And that's one of the things that I don't like about him. But something he said something one day in one of his discussions with Sam Harris, and I think Sam Harris was like pressuring somebody in the audience was pressuring him, or Sam Harris was pressuring him about whether or not he actually believes in a God, because he's always so vague with his God form. And he kind of made the comment, and he said something like, "I don't know, I'll get back to you in 2 years," or something like that. And somebody in the audience was kind of heckling him about it, and he kind of made the comment, and he was like, "Oh." He's like you can actually come up here and break down your entire beliefs in 30 seconds or something, to that effect. And the more I thought about that, I was like, that is kind of true, because I mean, even with Christians, and I mean, I don't know about you, because you have a, reformed belief to where you consider yourself an elect, and that, and again, that's not trying to say anything negative to you, but
Can you hear me okay, JB? The audio went weird there for a second. Do 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 do. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. I think mostly gentlemen. Having a brief YouTube hiccup, but these things generally tend to resolve themselves in not too much time. So I'm sure JB will be back with us in a second. Thank you, London Theist, for the subscription. Appreciate that very much. I am planning on hitting 100 subscribers sometime before I turn 30 years old. So I still got a few years. Sorry, Angela, I do recognize you're a lady. So still mostly gentlemen, probably. So, all right. Hopefully he's getting back in here soon. You never can tell with technology. Sometimes it likes you, sometimes it doesn't. Not likely. Yeah, not likely, Angela. I agree. All right. Drinking some lovely Keurig coffee this morning in my wife's cup. The A is for Angela. Yeah, I know. Spartan Theology says, I need to know the answer to my question. Would you rather be a Clemson fan or a Christian? I'm interested in that too. Now, I'm from, I don't know, I'm from Pennsylvania. So if you're not in central Pennsylvania, then college football tends not to be that big a deal. It tends to be more about the Eagles and things like that. So I'm not a huge college football guy, but I can still appreciate the rivalry. Right. Where is JB? Where could he be? Well, I definitely thought that JB's story so far is pretty interesting. And we are going to get to hear more of it. He is back. That's your main beef on Twitter. All right. We are We're back. We're good to go. Can't hear your audio.
Hello?
Yep, there you are. Awesome.
All right, we're good.
Good to go. Yeah, Spartan was getting a little he was getting a little nervous there that he wasn't going to find out the answer to his question, Clemson or Christianity.
You know, I'll go ahead and give that one away. As far as that goes, my entire family is a Gamecock fan. My entire family is also Christian. It'd be a lot easier for me to be a Christian. And honestly, I think being a Christian would make things easier for me because, my wife and kids are still Christians. So, I mean, I can honestly say, me being a Christian would actually be easier for me than being a non-believer because it would make things so much, easier in my household.
Interesting. Okay. Well. Yeah, I don't know if I was expecting that. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but
Yeah, I don't know how big you keep up on sports, but his football team. I think he went to school there. I'm not 100% sure. But sorry, I'm trying to get some things closed. My computer decided to just reboot itself in the middle of this discussion. He I think he went to school there. I'm not 100% sure, but
all right. So you were saying something I thought was really interesting. You were talking about Jordan Peterson, and I think I remember the quote that you're talking about. It might not be the same one, but someone asked him in like an audience Q&A, like, what do you think about the evidence for the historical resurrection of Jesus or something like that? And he was like, thought about it, and he was like, I'm going to have to look over that for 3 years, then I'll get back to you. And everyone's like,
yeah, I mean,
what an unusual response.
yeah, it's something like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, if I ask you on the spot, break down your beliefs for me, and I give you like, no time to, you don't really have any time to think about it. I mean, it can be hard to kind of, lay out your entire belief structure like on the spot. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not as easy as people like to say that it is, and it's not usually not as simple as a 1 or 2 word answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a valid point. Yeah, so that's interesting. So, yeah, so that's cool. So I guess I'm trying to like thinking about where you are now. You're real into theology and you're real into the Bible now. Maybe not in the same way that I am, but yeah, talk me through some of that. Like, where are you? Like, what kind of stuff are you reading? What kind of stuff are you interested in now?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not doing, and I tell everybody this when they ask me. I don't do a whole lot of reading, and it's one of the things that I need to get better at, and something that I'm trying to. I keep telling myself I'm headed into the new year. That's the one thing that I'm gonna do better on. I hate reading. It's just one of the things that I can't do. I'm one of those people that can read something over and over, and I have to read something like 3 times before it actually like sticks in my head, and I grasp it as fully as I need to. It's just I've never learned that way. I'm more of a an engaging learner, and as I spend time on the road a lot, and I spend time driving in a truck, listen to debates, discussions. I mean, yeah, everybody listens to the ones for fun on modern day debate that you don't have any scholars into, but I try to listen to some of the scholar stuffs too. I mean, I listen to a Bart Ehrman when I find him. I listen to William Lane Craig debates and discussions. I listen to Graham Oppie. I listen to Malpass. I listen to, and if London Theist is still in there, he can understand where this comes from. I mean, I'm a big fan of Unbelievable with Justin Briley that's over in England, and where he has discussions between people. And I mean, it's, I mean, everybody has their stuff that they do for fun and their discussions that they have, on the side. I mean, everybody loves a good dumpster fire sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes.
But I mean, at the same time, I mean, I like listening to the scholarly stuff too. And I like trying to understand some of their positions. I'm going to lie to you if I tell you that I can break down a complete, Graham Oppie or William Lane Craig debate and tell you that I understood everything that they say. But I mean, you pull nuggets out of it and things that you pick up on, things that you understand. And I try to go into discussions, and I don't look for winners or losers. I look for gaining knowledge and understanding things better. And somebody, I think it was Craig Reed, is like, likes to point out like IP's beat Matt Dillahunty in debates. And I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, I can give him like the one debate they have, I can say IP mopped the floor with him, because I mean, it was a no lose situation for IP walking into that debate. But that's not what matters to me, is who wins and who loses. It's basically what you can gain from the discussion.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Trying to figure out which direction I want to go in here. There's two things I kind of want to talk about, but
make a note and take the other one. Make a note of one, and we'll run down the other one. And I told you I had a hard out at 10:15. I've actually had some things change on that, so I mean I'm free to go for a little while longer.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, great. Yeah, I got some time too. My wife's taking my daughter for her 6-month doctor's appointment, so that's exciting. Man. Yeah.
Sleeping good yet?
We're sleeping great. Yeah, she's been good to go since she's about 6 weeks old. She get us at least 8-9 hours a night.
Okay.
Yeah, we had like a week or two period where she was not doing great, and then she's been solid. Yeah, we've had great sleep. Yeah, it's been awesome. But yeah, so I guess I'll just ask this then. So I guess when I think about, because I mean, you're right, Jewish rabbis especially, and Christians, my wife says it was a month that we didn't sleep well. So I guess all the sleep deprivation made it seem shorter. But I guess when I'm thinking about the rabbis and the Christian scholars who tend to disagree with one another on interpretations of the Old Testament, I mean, I think it makes sense why they would, certainly. I guess when I'm thinking about it, like, what is it about the disagreement that causes you to doubt, I guess? Because like I see people who disagree about, like I see young earth creationists and people who believe that they can scientifically demonstrate the earth to be 6,000 years old, and everyone else, like, they disagree about that. But, I've never thought to myself that was a reason that you couldn't know how old the earth was. You know what I mean? So like, what was it about the disagreement that like was so, I don't know, frustrating? I don't know if that's the word.
I'm gonna pull this up real quick on this other monitor so I can read it to you. Because whenever I found this was one thing that really stood out to me.
Yeah, 2 monitors is pretty legit, man. You're like, it's next level stuff.
Actually, I've got a laptop, and then we had I got like a 32-inch TV that we're doing nothing with. So I just plugged it in with an HDMI plug, and now it's working as a second monitor. And I was like, so now we've got two.
Nice.
This was one thing that really stood out to me, and even listening to a discussion with William Lane Craig he had with Tovia Singer. William Lane Craig admits that you will not find a Trinitarian God in the Old Testament. It does not exist. Now, you can agree with William Lane Craig or you can disagree with him. I'm just saying this is somebody that, most people consider one of, top-notch Christian philosophers and thinkers and understanders. So, I mean, you can understand. I mean, if he can walk away that way, you can see how others can walk away, agreeing with him. And everybody has their own beliefs, so you can either take that or leave that. It's not true because Craig says so, but that's just, as a starting point. So if we say that you can't find Jesus in the Old Testament, and I think even Spartan mentioned it I had a poll that I was going to start reading the Bible where I should start. And he told me that I needed to start with Matthew, because that's where you find Jesus. Jesus isn't in the Old Testament. You find him in the New Testament. So if you find that Jews don't understand Jesus as being God, I can point you right here to something that you would consider scripture and Jews would consider scripture. And it's Deuteronomy 13. And it starts off, if a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a sign or a wonder, and if the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, let us follow other gods, gods you have not known, and let us worship him, you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. If Jews don't understand Jesus as God, then you can take everything that every New Testament prophet says where they put Jesus in there, and it's a direct violation of Deuteronomy 13. Because even if Jesus is God, if Jews did not understand Jesus as God, they're now being told to worship a God that they did not know.
Would that still work if Christians were saying that Jesus is the same God who's speaking in Deuteronomy? Well, who's giving Moses or whoever the thing in Deuteronomy 13? Because we don't think that Jesus is a different God from, Jehovah or.
Correct. You're not going to say that Jesus is a different God, but would you say that Jews understood a Trinitarian God?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say that there's. There are passages that you can go to if you already have an understanding of the Trinity in the Old Testament to be like, okay, see, there's some hints of it here, but no, we would generally say, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we would generally say that the revelation of the Trinity happened, in the incarnation. So it wasn't the unity of God was well known, but the diversity of God of the three persons came about in the incarnation. We would look to progressive revelation or something like that. So, but yeah, I wouldn't. If I only had the Old Testament and I had never seen or heard of, anything of the New Testament scriptures or anything like that, I wouldn't be a Trinitarian. I would need the extra revelation from the New Testament.
So, and I can understand that, and that's why whenever I said I wanted to go back and I wanted to get a full understanding of all of it, I tried to leave those biases, and it's, let me think of how to say this, because I made the comment to somebody one day, and they tried using, and I can use it like this. They tried using thought experiments, and they was like, it was a morality discussion, and it was, if Hitler had won World War II, would it now be considered okay to kill and massacre Jews? And my answer to that was, it's, to me, those kinds of thought experiments are impossible, because you're coming into that thought experiment with your preconceived notions and the information that you already have before you ever make that judgment. You can't say, yes, it would be good, or you can go into it saying, no, it would still be objectively wrong. But at the same time, if you have been raised your entire life to think that it was right, then you would walk into that conversation saying, well, it's right, regardless of whether Hitler had won the war or not. And that's kind of what I wanted to do when I went back, was kind of strip, as much of a bias out of it as I could and try to get an understanding of it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Would you see maybe this is one of the areas that I'm not quite, do you see the God of the Old Testament as, so I think we both agree that the God of the Old Testament isn't explicitly Trinitarian, but it seems to me that the God of the Old Testament, just a God of one, isn't contradictory to a Trinitarian God. Would you say that
I,
the depiction of God in the Old Testament is incompatible with a Trinitarian view of God?
yes.
Why? Why is that?
Be, because I don't think a Trinitarian God is coherent or compatible with anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that works then. Okay. We can get into that. Maybe I can help you out with your Trinity stuff here. Maybe not. What is it that you find like incoherent about,
It violates
Trinity?
logic.
Okay. Explain. I
Law,
would like to.
law of identity. If Jesus is God, the Father is God, the Holy Spirit is God, then by value of identity, Jesus is the Father, and Jesus is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well, would that work to say that I am a human being, you are a human being, and my wife is a human being. Therefore, I am JB and my wife.
No, because human beings are not a being, it's a classification of beings. God is not a classification, it is a single thing.
We would so the category distinction we would make. So we would say that like I think even not the Nicene Creed, but the Constantinopolitan, is that word? I don't know. The creed that came after Nicaea. So they made the distinction between I guess essence and person. So we say that God is the essence of God is made up by three persons. So that
Okay.
makes a category distinction. So
So
we're
so
saying
what
that
is
there
an
are
essence?
two. An essence is, I don't know what a thing is. So maybe the way I like to explain it to my
Well,
whenever.
hold on. If an essence is what a thing is, and the
Mhm.
Father is God, and Jesus is God, then wouldn't God be its essence?
So God is the essence, and identities like Father, Son, and Spirit are person. So the way I like to explain it the best is,
So it's
um,
polytheism.
no. The way I like to explain it the best is essence is what something is, and person is who something is. So if you can make those different category distinctions, like the chair that I'm sitting on has essence, but it doesn't have personhood. It's not a person. So I have essence. I'm a human being, but I don't have any personhood. I'm sorry, I do have personhood. My bad. So if you can make those two different category distinctions, then now obviously I'm a limited finite human being. I can't have more than one person, or else you would look at me a little strange. I might not come on with another
Let's.
YouTube chat. But if you
I
can make
realize.
those, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, you're good. I realize this is difficult for you to do, but so I'm going to ask, and I'm saying no is completely acceptable here. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire and say, give me an answer. Can you name of anything that has the same essence as something else that has a different being?
We would use the terms being and essence synonymously. Like
Okay, so
those are the terminology gets a little fuzzy, but
so
uh,
what is it? Is they share an essence, but they're separate in what?
in person.
In
So
person.
one
Okay,
what, three who's is the
so one
most
what,
catchy
three
way to
who's.
explain it. Yes.
One what, three who's. Um, this is the example that I gave to dry apologist, and him and I kind of reached a stalemate shortly after this and moved to a new topic. So I mean, if you want to head to a new topic, that's fine, or we can sit here and discuss the Trinity for
That's
however long. It
good.
doesn't matter to me.
Hey, I
Um,
love stalemates, so
and I'm going to preference this by saying I'm in no way trying to be demeaning or or anything like that, but it's the closest example that I can find. So if I can find you three magicians or sorcerers that share the same abilities and powers, are they now one because they share the essence of the magic, or are they separate people and beings?
well, they are separate people and they are separate beings. That would be more like the Mormon Godhead. That would be polytheism. So there's
But
not they don't
right,
share
but
they share similarities, but
So
they don't share.
where's the difference between that and God?
We're saying
And
that.
and again, I realize that magicians and sorcerers can come off as
Yeah,
belittling. That's not what I'm trying to do. I mean, I can't say a god because then we're
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything better to use either. So magicians and sorcerers is probably fine. Um, so we're saying that the three persons of the Trinity share the same essence. They're made up of the same, not made up, but they are of the same essence. They are, the Father is Jehovah, the Son is Jehovah, and the Spirit is Jehovah as well. So, which is a greater unity than you would see with those three rascals that were doing kids' birthday parties before. Now, however impressive the handkerchief out of the sleeve is, them being
I
able
was
to do
thinking,
it.
I was thinking more of like a Doctor Strange kind of sorcerer as opposed to a
Oh,
stage
okay.
magic. But either way, I mean,
Well, I mean, I've tried to learn magic tricks, and it's just I can do a few of them, but I mean, that the sleight of hand magic is amazing. I
yeah,
can't keep
it
up.
is.
Um, that's what you get when you don't have kids yet, and YouTube exists, and you've got a lot of free time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I would say that the unity that we're talking about with Father, Son, and Spirit, where they're sharing the same essence, isn't the same as just being similar, I guess. So that was actually the debate at Nicaea. Was, are we saying that? Well, actually, that was the debate at Constantinople, because the modalists were saying, or no, I'm sorry, the Arian. This is Nicaea. Okay, I've got this all mixed up.
Yeah,
Okay, so
dude, I'm not gonna attack you for having the wrong
I
the wrong.
appreciate. So at Nicaea, the debate between the Arians and the Trinitarians was: are we saying that the Father and the Son are of the same substance, or are they of a similar substance? That was the debate, and you had people trying to take a middle ground too. So of similar substance would be would be your three magicians, or I've heard the example used before of the Trinity is like is like a dollar. So you have a dollar as like a gold coin, a dollar is like a paper money, and then a dollar is like a, I don't know, one of those Sacagawea coins. I don't know, I'm not sure. So they're it's $1 but three different dollars or something. That's polytheism. That's similar substance, like the Arians would say. So we wouldn't say that, I guess. We would say that they share the same substance in essence, not that they're similar. I don't know if that helped.
Probably not.
Okay.
I was trying to find this. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I can't find it fast enough to Google it. There was a there's a similar polytheism deity to the Trinity, and I believe it's three sisters that are individual beings that share the same minds, the same thoughts, but they all move their own actions. Um, yeah, that's basically considered, polytheism. They consider them as three individual deities. The fact that you have threes into ones, just I don't know. It's most of the time when you try to have discussions on the Trinity, it breaks down into two forms of heresy. And granted, heresy can be what is true. I mean, there's, I like to say heresy is the opinion that didn't win the war. Is is basically how it comes down. So
Yeah, and I would only add to that, thankfully. But yeah, so I'm not sure with the three. I'm not sure with the three sisters. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. Maybe it's like
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's and I'm not a polytheist, so I don't fully understand it. It's fun though because I enjoy those discussions, especially on my side, because Um, Ocean Keltoy uses it so greatly every time he walks into a Trinitarian discussion with somebody, and that's somebody that understands the polytheism that I don't.
Mhm. Yeah, if you find that, I'd be interested in seeing that kind of thing. So I mean, I talk with my Mormon friends a lot. I have missionaries over to my house. If not every week, then every other week, for a long time now. Mormons are great. Uh, they're they don't drink enough coffee for my liking, but they're still okay.
I'm gonna tell your
And
pastor you said that.
well, dang.
It's on video now.
Well,
Clip it,
yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, but Mormons are cool. But their issue with me is they don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe that the three persons, the Father, Son, and Spirit, can that they're one being. They believe that they're similar, that they're one in purpose, that they're united in that kind of stuff. But they're not actually, one essence. They don't share being or anything like that. So that so I guess that would be one of the heresies that we're talking about. I guess that thankfully didn't win the day, because I mean there are clear statements. Basically, if I could say it like this, the reason that I believe in the Trinity and not anything else is because I see in Scripture clear testimony that there's only one God, a clear testimony that the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are all called that one God, and then lastly that there's no that the Father is as much God. So taking all those three things together, like I'm left with either either a contradictory thing, or I have to find some way to harmonize it. And the way I find to harmonize it is by making the category distinction between being and person. So I'm not saying 1 equals 3. You know what I mean? I'm saying that God is 1 in this category and 3 in this category. So I feel like that way I'm avoiding any contradiction. I don't know. That's just what I think.
Okay. And again, this is part of why the discussions go. I mean, heck, even like we were talking earlier. I mean, the discussions go on to this day about what it is. I mean, you would consider them heretic for their views. They would consider you heretic for your views. I mean, it's.
I suppose so, but I wouldn't say that they've continued to this day. I mean, the trend, like if anything, has been mainstream and pretty debate free for 2,000 years. It's been the Trinity, up until
I think
like
Trinity was like 3rd century before it ever came around.
which is well,
So
it's not that the
it's
Trinity.
1700 years.
Well, it's not that the Trinity came about in in 325 at Nicaea. It's that that was the first major challenge to kind of what everybody believed by the Arians. And there's the modalists before that, but so that was really when the church clarified what it believed. And then since then, like we've been pretty much good to go up until, maybe the 19th century when things got a little wacky. Got more than a little wacky. But yeah, maybe we can move on to something else.
Yeah, sure.
So
And real quick.
yeah.
I'm not signed in, so I can't chat. But Spartan made a nasty comment to me. It says that because God is so holier than us that it's fine to say that we can't understand it fully. And I mean that's perfectly fine. I don't I have a good relationship with Spartan, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by saying this, but he would understand that I tend to be open to people about my beliefs and tend to be open with people about theirs, and I don't try to judge people on their things. And if you come to the position of this is what I believe and I don't fully understand it, then I mean I've got no argument against you at that point. It's just like okay, that's fine, but that's not where I'm at. So
I think Spartan was saying that God is so wholly other than us. So in other words, that he's so different in his being than us.
right, and I mean either way, I mean if it's something that he doesn't understand and he still wants to go with it, I mean that's fine, and I don't have any offense against anybody that does that. So I'm not trying to trying to talk bad about Spartan if that's his take, but I mean that's a hiccup for me
Okay.
as far as that goes. So I
All
didn't
right.
want I was going to type to you in chat Spartan, but then I realized I wasn't signed in, and I don't feel like going through all that crap just
Yeah,
and I
it's
can
a
answer
lot.
you in live.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So like for me, one of the things that, because I used to be an agnostic back when I was like a teenager, and one of the things that I really found troubling about that worldview, and one of the reasons that caused me to, you know, to look for some kind of theism was the issue of like morality. You know, like how do I, like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do in my agnostic, moral life? So I was really interested. What is your, like, if you had to explain your view of morality, like how do you ground things as wrong or right? Do you believe in objective morality, I guess, is a
No.
good thing? You don't? Okay. Um, so what's your approach to kind of saying that like things are right and wrong, I guess?
Um. Oh gosh, I hate morality discussions. um. What's my grounding? I
Yeah,
mean,
like,
I don't. I mean, I guess the same as everybody else. I mean, I say this vaguely. Everybody else's. I mean, it's intuition and the understandings that you've been brought up with to this point. I mean, it's can can objective morality exist? Yes. I don't see a reason why it can't. Um, it's to me, and again, I told you I'd try to steer clear of a lot of the philosophy stuff, but morality is something that I kind of want to get a better understanding of because I want to I want to understand. People like to put captions on things and put situational things into place, and is is torturing babies for fun objectively wrong? Well, to me, you've made that statement too self-centered because you've put the for fun on there. I can tell you that torturing babies is wrong, regardless of whether it's for fun or what. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure at some point you know, there were SS officers that didn't find pleasure in what they were doing. So, I mean, I can still say that it was wrong, even if the SS officers didn't have fun with what they were doing. Um, but I think like I think people break down morality too much into specific situations. Like if I ask you, is stealing wrong? The question generally becomes, well, it depends on the context. Well, okay. Now you've made it subjective to the situation. So, I mean, it's either wrong to do or it's not wrong to do, and that's something that I have a big hang up with, and that's something that I want to have further discussions with to get a better understanding on is how they put those category qualifier things in there that seem to change the whole argument.
yeah, I mean, I'm someone who would believe in objective morality, probably not that surprisingly, but I would say
No.
that like, you can't say that it's not wise to say that punching is wrong because it depends on who you're punching. Am I punching my mom or am I punching like, someone in self-defense? Like, it matters, that kind of thing. So were you saying that?
That's a situation I haven't thought of, and like I said, I mean, I'm not huge on the whole
Yeah.
morality thing. It's something that
Okay.
I want to dive deeper into. But I mean, I don't mind saying, at this point right now where I see myself as an objective, as a sorry, subjective morality kind of person.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's cool. Um, so I know you're not big on philosophy. I mean, there's some other stuff that we could talk about. So we
I
covered the
mean,
Trinity for sure.
you can cover me. I mean, you can try me in philosophy. I mean, like I said,
Okay.
I hate weaponized philosophy. I mean, I understand, you know, for the most part, how to have discussions, that involve it. But I mean, don't try to weaponize it to me. Don't like, be like, oh, well, I mean, if you can clearly understand what I'm saying, then don't be like, well, I need an argument. You know what I mean? I mean, there's things that people can flush through and have discussions that are having it, completely structured. You know. And even if
Yeah,
you need it structured, then you can work together to get that structure. You know what I mean? And not just be like, just sit back on your hands and go, well, give me the structure. And then when they say something, be like, no, I want the structure.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw a debate once on, I think it was Modern Day Debate between Scholar Fiction and I
Trent
can't,
Doherty.
yeah. I couldn't think
Yeah.
of his last name, and it was so
Yeah.
frustrating. He
Yeah.
was just like, it's not a syllogism, so I don't know what your problem is. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my, like you can, I guess you can walk away and say you won the debate on technical terms, but you haven't actually helped anyone. Like the
Right.
discussion hasn't benefited a single person's life. So uh, Barton says, JD, can you provide a syllogism for why God can't be a Trinity? Oh man.
Premise one is incoherent.
Oh.
Therefore, it doesn't exist.
Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. Like I don't see the value in over philosophizing something yet. Or I think the way you said to weaponize it,
Weaponizing.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
good
I
way to
mean,
put it.
I get it that I think one of the I think one of the classiest things, as far as philosophy goes, is on Capturing Christianity. He had a discussion between Malpass and Craig on I'm sorry, Dr. Malpass and Dr. Craig. Let me give them their proper titles. Um, and Craig would say something, and Malpass would go, "I'm not going to do this because I know you hold this view on something else. So I'm not going to try to attack where your views don't stand together. I'm going to discuss what you actually placed in front of me." You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy in conversations is, you know, the honest dialogue. And that's honestly the kind of stuff that I try to strive for. And that's, why I have discussions, and I feel they're pretty calm, laid back, easygoing discussions that get to better understandings of things.
Yeah, I just realized we haven't really pumped up your channel at all at this point. Yeah, I think
Nobody wants to see any more of me.
I thought your stuff has been great so far. Especially that polytheist one. That was really interesting. Like I think that really presented a different point of view that people don't hear a lot. I thought that was fascinating. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely good. Yeah, and I think that's your channel has basically been pretty good at being
Yeah,
that. Like it's not weaponized philosophy for sure. It's good and it's helpful and it's beneficial.
yeah,
So
and I mean, real quick, I mean, that's one of the things that I wanted to do with it was I wanted to. I, One of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to put to rest anybody being able to say, well, you're not engaging with the other side, or you're in your echo chambers. And I'm like, look, I'm reaching out and having discussions with people that I completely disagree with, and getting trying to get a better understanding of where they're coming from, what their beliefs are, and stuff. I mean, I'm having roadblocks with Rabbi Singer of getting him on. So I've been messaging him all morning. So I thought I was going to have a hard out around 10:15 to set up something for him at 10:30, but he's I'll get back to you later. So I mean, we'll try again. So and then I've got Thursday I've got John Depew coming on to discuss universalism, which I'm sure you consider a heresy.
yeah, I'm not big on universalism. I mean, I've debated annihilationists, and I much prefer them to universalists. So
Yeah,
yeah,
wasn't it you and Caleb, right? You and
yeah, I've had a debate with Caleb and Chris Date, who's an evangelical annihilationist, and they've both been really interesting. I've come a long way since the debate with Caleb. I was like, my arguments were not very good. That point, really, that debate was just I was just trying to argue against Catholicism, basically saying like he can't be an annihilationist and a Roman Catholic. But yeah, my arguments were dumb. So
and to give a little praise here because he's somebody that I really like is Dry apologist and Caleb. You want to talk about somebody that can understand philosophy with the heavyweights and still talk to a layman and not try to weaponize positions. I mean, that's somebody that's about as cool and laid back as they get. I mean, you can't even get him to laugh on his channel.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I agree. No, I think that's right. That's a good assessment. Yeah, I think I've had two debates with him at this point, and yeah, same thing, um, same impression. Like he's been very kind. He's not interested in getting cheap points, saying like, oh well, it's not in a syllogism, it doesn't count. That kind of
yeah,
stuff.
no, I
So
mean he's great. He's about as good as they get. I mean, that's why when I search YouTube, both uh
yeah, I think
yeah, I need to
I've had a similar issue, I think.
yeah. Well, if you stop searching, John, and just go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that little notification bell, then you would get updates whenever I go live and whenever things are happening.
Oh well. Yeah, and as a fellow JB, I mean, you think he would have supported you at this point?
Yeah,
But,
yeah, I know. I mean, I tried my best to get his buddy Craig Reed up to some views by going on his channel, but
yeah, that's cool. Um, I don't know how much you want to get into this, but one of the other issues, because I'm just thinking back when I was um, when I was an agnostic and trying to like figure out my way. One of the issues that I had was grounding knowledge. So I guess maybe I can ask it this way: do you believe in that there is objective truth?
um, depends on what you mean by objective truth.
I could ask it in two different ways. Maybe
Yeah, go ahead.
do you believe that there is a I don't know, that there is a correct accounting of things as they are, and do you believe that you can know what is the correct accounting of things as they are?
Um, hold on. I'm gonna do this instead of typing it out. I'm gonna work on getting the channel renamed because I see John Buck was saying something about it in the thing. You can only change your YouTube name so often, like within a certain time frame before it like shuts you down, and it's like you have to wait like 30 days before you can change it again and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
And I think I was kind of bouncing around on a couple different things that day, and I did that one, and I was like, okay, cool. And then it wouldn't let me change it anymore, and so I think I can change it again now. So if anybody wants to hit me up on Twitter with some suggestions for, a new name channel, um, then by all means, go ahead. I'm not, opposed to anything like that. Um, so as far as objective truth, I don't know. I mean, would you consider things like I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like, would you consider something like I know I'm talking to Ross Burns on the computer right now, like an objective truth? I mean, and then it gets into how you understand the word no. Um, I've heard, I've heard people talk about fallibilism, where it's one of those things where you don't have to know for certain. You don't have to, you can be wrong and still have knowledge, as opposed to a justified true belief, and you have the Getty ear problems. Um, and sorry, I just saw Spartan.
Yeah.
um, and I just had him editing my old logo too, like earlier this week. So that's great to have to make him make a new logo at this point. Um, I, I guess I'm just gonna say I don't know, because I can say things like I know the Earth is round and not flat, but then I'm also tying into that I know that I'm not living in a matrix and that there actually is an Earth, which is something I don't think you can know for certain. So I guess the typical answer is, do I believe in objective truth? I believe it's out there, but I'm not sure that we can actually know what is objectively true or not.
Okay. Yeah. So would you? I guess if you set aside maybe the Cartesian evil genius problem or the brain in the vat, the matrix and all that kind of stuff, if you set aside those things, and just for the sake of argument say that what I'm experiencing is at least real, what would do you have like a method of getting to objective truth from there, or are you kind of still undecided on that?
I'm still kind of undecided on that. And I mean, I think a lot of that goes back to what I was saying earlier with Peterson is, I mean, how often do people sit down and think about these things? I mean, and it's just something I haven't given much thought to. And I mean, that's honestly where I'm at. I mean, it's just one of the things that I haven't put much thought into. I mean, I know as best that I can that if I walk into traffic without looking both ways, then I run a chance of dying. Um, and I mean, I kind of live my life based on what I know going into the day. I mean, the knowledge that you pick up. I don't spend much time worrying about like objective knowledge outside of what we perceive daily kind of thing, I guess you could say.
How does that fit into, because like you were saying before, like the idea of a Trinity, or the Trinity is incoherent, like it violates the law of non-contradiction. So then what I would be thinking of is, how do you know that something isn't true if it violates the law of non-contradiction?
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So like like personally, those are the kind of things. So I think I would have given the same answer. Like those are the kind of things that made me into a Christian. Yes.
I mean, that's honestly. I mean, I, I've heard and I've listened to these discussions several times from several people, and I mean, I've heard about every answer that you can come from. The the laws of logic, as far as you consider your three main laws of logic, your law of excluded middle, law of identity, and law of non-contradiction. Those are foundational, and you have to have you have to presuppose logic in order to prove that they don't hold. So therefore, logic holds in all situations. I've heard, great arguments for logic is just a language of the way that the world works, and logic doesn't technically exist the same way numbers don't exist. I've heard, foundationalists go into, well, logic is where I start, and we can't get any further back than the logic. And I've heard people, that just don't seem to understand logic at all. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you want my honest opinion on it, it seems to work that way. The idea that something can exist and not exist at the same time, just, yeah, I'll say it the same way I said about the Trinity. It's incoherent to me. Does that mean that it can't exist? No. As a matter of fact, I get the thing all the time from Christians of, well, God is logically possible, and that's fine. I see no way that a deity is illogical. As far as I can tell. But I'm trying to figure out, because everybody always says, well, if it's incoherent or if it's illogical, then it can't exist. Is there anything that is not illogical that also can't exist? Because just because it's logically consistent doesn't mean that it actually exists. It means that it's possible, I guess, but it doesn't mean that it actually does. Or is there anything that, basically, I mean, is there anything that is logically possible that can't exist in this world? Because you can say you can exist in a different world. So that's kind of one of those things I put out on Twitter one day and never really got much of an answer to. I think I scare all the Christians.
Yeah, I think like if I'm thinking in my philosophy mode, I would say that I'm saying different things uh, when I say that a square circle can't exist and a unicorn can't exist. So I mean, there's nothing like inherently contradictory about a unicorn existing. Like it'd just be like a horse with a, one horn on the front. That would be kind of fun. Seems a little bit dangerous, I guess. Like if you're trying to ride it, what if you like, puts his head back? But um, like other than that, like a square circle, I think can't exist. You know, you can say that, but I don't think that there's anything about a unicorn that says it can't exist. And it doesn't exist, but I think that's a different category of thing, maybe than a square circle or a married bachelor or something like that.
Actually, funny thing you say that because we were discussing I just thought about it when you said that, and I'll tweet it to you if I can find it. Um, I don't know if you know him or not. I know some people in your chat do. Um, like it's possible I was on the stream instead of JB. Right. Um, Steve McRae. Do you know who Steve McRae is?
I'm not sure. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
He runs he does a bunch of philosophy stuff, and shameless plug, he's actually coming on the 17th to discuss agnosticism because he is hardcore on the agnostic and not atheist bandwagon. Um, so he actually wrote a blog post that actually shows that you can have a married bachelor and not form a logical contradiction with it. So I'll see if I can find that and actually send it to you.
Right. John Buck said it's not logically contradictory to say that two different philosophers agree on everything, but it's not physically possible. That's funny. Yeah.
I think that's what I think that's the same thing he said to me whenever I put put my tweet out asking for it. Now that he put it in the chat.
It's a good point. Yeah. So I would be interested in that, how a married bachelor can exist. I know even with a squared circle, you can get into like weird non-Euclidean geometry, but basically everybody, that's one of those like, irritating weaponized philosophy things. Like, you know what I mean when I'm saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I haven't read the blog post on the married bachelor thing, so I mean it may be the same kind of thing, but I think it'd be, like I said, it just popped in my head when you said something about a married bachelor being illogical.
Yeah, so that's fun. So I guess like the last thing I'm interested in is like I know most of the stuff you do is theology and philosophy and that kind of stuff, but you also do get into some politics and things like that. So I'm interested, like, what is your kind of what is the political aspect of your worldview? Like, what do you think constitutes a correct government? I guess like what's your philosophy of politics?
Where do you want to start?
Pro or anti-monarchy?
Oh, anti.
Okay, so we're on the same page. All right. Would you lean more towards capitalism or more towards socialism?
Um, I'm I've grown up my entire life in a capitalist society. Um, so I can tell you that capitalism works. With that being said, I have heard great arguments for why socialism can work in our government. And I also think that people treat socialism as the same way like Kennedy's administration did with the word communism. They're treating it as the big bad wolf in the room, and that everybody should run from without so much of without understanding what it is. Because if you talk to the average person on the street about what is socialism, they're going to point you to Venezuela, which isn't socialism by any stretch of the imagination, as when you compare it to the kind of socialism that people in America are advocating for. And then, if you ask them, if you ask them those kind of questions, they jump you to the extreme because that's the stuff that's completely thrown in their face on a regular basis. This is what we need to stay away from. This is where we're headed. This is what it's going to be. I believe in safety net programs by the government. I believe in welfare. I believe in healthcare. I think I've said for a long time, and I mean, I can get slack. I can get slack for this whenever if everybody wants to give it to me or not. I think the ACA or Obamacare was a was a great was a great idea that was badly mismanaged and rolled out completely terribly. But the idea was great. It was just mishandled by the people in charge of it. And whoever you want to put that blame on is up to you. Whether you want to point the finger at Obama or you want to point the finger at Joe Biden or you want to point it at the House and Senate or Congress overall or the courts for not stepping in when they should have, when people feel that they should have. I mean, whoever you want to point the finger at, I can, go right down the line with you and say, okay, yeah, we'll point the finger at all of them. I mean, whoever you want to point the finger at, I'm right there with you. It was just terribly mismanaged.
Were you saying that Venezuela isn't socialism, or it's not socialism like the American
It's
Democrats are
it's
advocating for?
it depends on how you want to categorize Venezuela. To me, Venezuela is, if you want to call it socialism, I'm not going to argue with you. It's almost like an atheist agnostic thing. If you want to call it socialism, I'm not going to argue with you. But if you want to call it communism, I'm not going to argue with that one either. I think Venezuela rides that very thin line between what is socialism and what is a communist government. And that's why I hate Venezuela being pointed to whenever people point out, issues with socialism. I'd rather than point out some of the European countries or some of the stuff Canada's doing and things like that, as far as pointing out more of some of the socialist aspects that I would like to see in charge, take place in this country.
So you would want more of like a half and half kind of thing?
Yeah, I think some Americans call it socialist. Yeah, I think as far as like healthcare goes, I think we should have a national healthcare thing, but we should also find a way to work something in where you can have your individual healthcare if you want it outside of a government. I think I think a choice is still there, but I think that also the choice should be, you should have the choice for the government healthcare too, kind of thing, if you wanted it. To me, the reason I support healthcare for all is even when Obama did it is, and I was a Republican pretty much when Obama was in office. I've changed my political views a lot in the last several years. So I'm trying to think where I was going with that. Where was I saying? I just lost my track. Oh, when Obama was putting in the Affordable Care Act while he was in office, my stance then was, as the president, you take an oath and a duty to all American citizens to try to protect all American citizens. And if you're protecting them with health care, then if you view that that's how it's done, or that's a way to do it, then you are doing your job as president when you are addressing that issue.
Yeah, so maybe I can go back even more foundationally than this. This would be interesting. Do you believe that all human beings have, pre-governmental rights to, following conscience and, freedom of speech, freedom to own property, and that kind of thing? Like, do you believe that they have pre-governmental rights to those kind of things? Or do you believe that private rights are less important than the needs of the entire populace, I guess?
I guess that would depend on the exact question, because am I for free speech? Yes, 100%. I believe in 100% free speech. I don't care what it is. You have a right to say whatever you want to, and I also believe in, if, like, people raise up the issue with the where was it, Arizona, with the wedding cake case that went to the Supreme Court. Do I have issues with it? Yeah, but I don't have issues with it on a free speech ground. I have issues with it on other grounds. So if you have the right to free speech, and people also have the right to not give you business, if you're doing it in a business capacity. People have the right to ignore you. People have the right to, steer clear of you. I mean, I seem to be of the mindset, and I may change, but this seems to be my overall thing is I like the Nazis screaming really loud so that I know who the Nazis are and who I need to stay the hell away from.
So that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. London Theist asked if, what's your view on guns? Are you like that would be a good application of this this balance between individual rights and perception of community needs and that kind of thing. So, what would your take on that be?
I believe Americans have rights to guns for defense or hunting. Um, I also think that as far as the political system goes here in the states, I'm assuming we're not talking like worldwide. I'm not trying to be a worldwide dictator on everybody. Um, but I also think that we need better gun laws in this country. There are too many loopholes. There are too many backdoor situations. Like, I mean, you have situations where people have guns in their house and a murder happens. When they find the murder weapon, they track the number back, and the guy just tells the cops, "Oh, that gun was stolen a year ago." Well, why'd you never file a police report? Well, I don't know. Well, great. Now, how do we know if that gun was actually stolen? You know what I mean? I don't think you should be able to do weapon deals as easy as you can do car deals. I think every firearm sale should go through an authorized firearms dealer that has to keep things on record. So if you're going to sell it to your best friend, that's fine. But I mean, you can either have a thing where you sell it to somebody and then your friend buys it from them, or you have somebody there that oversees the transaction that keeps documentation on it, kind of thing. I mean, there's too many things that are issues that I have with the guns in this country but no, I don't see an issue in banning guns.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And so you would, yeah, I mean, I'm not really allowed to. I'm not an expert on this, but as far as I know, like I can't just, or like, I guess maybe the better question is, how would a government prevent the private sales of, like, if I just wanted to sell you a handgun, like, how would the
You
government really prevent
you
that from happening?
you can't.
Okay.
I mean, the same way speed limits can't stop people from speeding, in the same way that a death penalty can't stop people from murdering. You can't stop it. The only thing you can do is put checks and balances in place to try to curb it, I guess you could say. And that's the biggest thing that I have is a lot of times when I have these discussions, it's people that are like, well, you're not going to stop this and this. Well, I mean, that's great, but no law stops everything. I mean, how do you enforce seatbelts? You can't make me put a seatbelt on when I get in my car. But once you see me without a seatbelt, then you can, you know, fine me for the violation then.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I don't think there's a law you can put in place that's going to stop anything from happening 100%. I just don't.
What's your opinion on requiring all guns to be registered, um, like titles to cars?
Yes, I don't see a reason why they can't do that. And we need to update the gun registering systems in the United States. Right now, the NRA has fought to keep the ATF from being able to keep electronic files on guns. So they still have to keep paper records. It is 2020. There's no reason anybody is keeping paper records anywhere at this point.
Yeah, I guess like I would be uncomfortable with that just because that seems like the next step towards a mandatory buyback. You know, if we can, if there is like a national registry of guns, then well, maybe to say it this way, if there isn't a national registry of guns, then having any kind of mandatory buyback would be, not really doable, I guess. So I don't know. What's your thinking on that?
Do you register your car?
Yes.
Do you register your house?
My landlord probably does.
Okay. All your taxes are registered to the government? So the government knows what you're making every week?
I can
Unless you're
neither
through the
confirm nor
church.
deny that.
Okay. Well, okay. Majority of Americans. Can we? We'll speak from there.
Yeah.
If you're not worried about them coming after your house, you're not worried about them coming after your car. You're worried about them coming after your guns. Okay. Also, as I said earlier, a legal requirement to register your firearms is not a guarantee that everybody is going to register every firearm.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you can do is put the law in place.
Right. Yeah, I guess with like the registering the house and the guns, like there aren't really any nationwide conversations about buying back, like a mandatory buyback of houses or cars. You
Are
know
there
what I mean?
national conversations about buying back guns other than people who are using it as fear mongering on both sides?
It did sound like, I mean, people have said it. Like, Beto O'Rourke has said that. Eric Swalwell, congressman from California. So that's definitely out there. That's uh, maybe more fringe at the moment, but I mean, things only stay fringe for a few years. Um, and like it's already happened in other countries. Like Australia would be a good example. John Buck pointed that out, Australia. So like that's not out of the realm of possibility, I
Do
guess.
do you, do you want me to weaponize philosophy and explain to you why because Australia did it doesn't mean America's going to?
That's true, but we do look. Well, actually, I have heard Australia as a test case for why we maybe should do it. Um, but I agree that just because it happened in Australia, that it won't necessarily happen here. So I mean, but honestly, how do you take away guns from Aussies, man? They got like their wild animal situation over there is insane. They're like there are so many things that can kill you in Australia. Like it's man. And what are they supposed to go out there with? Like one of those crocodile Dundee knives to try and defend themselves
Yeah,
against a
everything in
saltwater
Australia
croc?
wants. Yeah, everything in Australia wants to kill you.
Man, jeez. But cringe, slippery slope argument. But yeah, so I'm not saying like that a gun buyback is bad because it could lead to something. But I kind of am saying that a national registry is bad because it kind of leads to something. I am kind of saying that because keeping that keeping that barrier does make it so that the next thing can't happen.
What do you? Uh, I'm not going to ask you personal questions. Because I don't want to. We're on the
Oh,
internet.
yeah, I probably won't mind.
Okay. Do you own guns?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, my dad owns guns. I know several people that own guns. I mean, I'm not. I got, like I said, my buddy of mine, the Christian friend that I was having those discussions with, that's like a, literist, is actually I think it has two ARs. So I mean, it's like I said, I believe in people having the right to have guns. I mean, that's not something that I'm against. Um, what do you think the main purpose of you having a gun is?
Uh, at least in terms of the context of America and its founding, is the Second Amendment was originally put in place to protect the First Amendment. A government is much less likely to become tyrannical with an armed populace. That was the thinking in the Federalist Papers. The reason that the Second Amendment was put in place is a check against an overreaching government. So that's my main thing.
No.
Is it nice to hunt? Absolutely. Is it good to be able to defend yourself if someone breaks in? Absolutely. But I'm mostly in favor of the Second Amendment because I'm in favor of the First Amendment.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think that your gun, regardless of what it is in your household, is going to stop you or protect you from pinpoint accurate drones that can be launched where you're not even fighting a live target?
Not me individually, certainly, but
Do,
if
do you think we as the people have a shot against a military that has nukes and missiles and tanks and planes with firearms?
I think 100,000 people with handguns and AR-15s storming a military base are probably going to do pretty well. Um,
Yeah, so did the Confederates.
well, it did work for them for a while. They were doing pretty good until they got to my neck of the woods and to Gettysburg.
I mean, as I said, I'm from South Carolina. It started right here. Fort Sumter's 2 hours from me.
Yeah, and it basically ended right here in Gettysburg. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But I think it's just much less likely. Obviously,
And
like you can still you can still tyrannize a population. I
I
think even
think
if they are armed, but
I think it was James Madison, and I could be wrong about who said it. Made the argument in front of Congress back then that the number one thing against a tyrannical government wasn't the Second Amendment, but it was the three branches of government. It was the checks and balances on each other. That was the number one deterrent of a tyrannical government. And I think even right now, and I'll say this, I don't know where you fall politically, but I think that the checks and balances of the government is you're seeing it right now, where the checks and balances can come in and actually stop a
you still there, JB?
Did you lose me?
No, I think we're good. Just
Okay.
stream hiccup. That's all. I think we're good. I didn't catch the last part of what you were saying. That the checks and balances are
Checks and I think that what's going on right now politically is a good example of why we have the checks and balances and what they can do to actually step in and stop somebody that's trying to seize absolute power.
I don't know if I would say that Trump is trying to seize absolute power. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but it might be what you're saying.
Yeah, basically.
Oh boy. Yeah, I doubt that. Like if my opinion would be if Trump wanted to seize absolute power, then it seems very strange that there were, almost no national, power grabs during the pandemic. Like if there was ever an opportunity to justify like the Patriot Act happened back when we were in the scare of terrorism in the early 2000s. The pandemic is that at least, if not probably more.
But he doesn't believe in the pandemic. So he can't at the same time admit that the pandemic exists. He can't say I'm putting in national powers to battle a pandemic that doesn't exist.
I don't know if that's the fairest characterization of his stance, but
okay, maybe not, but
but yeah, no, I don't think.
Again, it's you can understand the gist of the argument.
I don't think I disagree with your original point though, that the checks and balances are good to that they're good to prevent a tyrannical government. I think I think to your original point, they are more important to preventing a tyrannical government than an armed populace. I do agree with that as well. Yeah, we were going through his worldview and things like that, and then we got onto this. That's how it happened. So yeah, we did kind of get far off, but anyway, I think we've covered the full spectrum here. JB, I really appreciate you coming on and telling me your story. And
do we have any questions from the audience that haven't been answered? I mean,
I think
I know we've kind of been interacting with them throughout the stream, and
I think I've gotten everything. London Theist, I'd like to have someone come up with a T-shirt that says "Make constitutional monarchy great again," but I don't know if that's gonna work.
We'll put it right there with our T-shirt that says "Repent because you exist."
Yeah, that'll work. All right, I think we've covered everything.
All right, sorry you're late, Digital Hammurabi. Josh, Dr. Josh, or Megan, or both, whichever one. Have you checked out their channel, by the way? It's a great channel.
Yeah. I definitely have checked out their channel. Really interesting stuff. I've talked to Dr. Josh a little bit on Skylar Fiction's channel before. That was fun. So, but yeah, JB, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me and discussing things and sharing your viewpoints. So, yeah, hopefully we can do this again sometime. Do something. Come on with a topic, because I think we have pretty good conversations. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. Any final thoughts? One more time, can you please plug your channel? Tell us why it is the best up and coming YouTube channel on the web.
So right now I'm currently running a channel called Talk with JB. Talk with is going to be one word, so you can search for it easier. the name may change because I've been informed that it's hard to locate my channel sometimes. So name may be changing. Right now I'm doing what I'm calling a Let's Talk About series and building a playlist on it, where I'm having different people from different worldviews, different religions, different denominations inside those religions to basically come on and explain their beliefs and their religion to me, so that I can have a better understanding of where they're coming from, and I can understand some of the best arguments for their position and not sit around and just point fingers at and knock over straw men all day whenever I have discussions. I tend to seek truth in my discussions and better understandings of people or of people. So that's kind of what I'm doing on my channel. Got some pretty great, I'm going to say there's some good interviews coming up. I'm going to go ahead and plug them real quick. The ones that I have scheduled so far is tomorrow. I think at 3:45 in the afternoon. I have to double check the time. I'll tweet out about it later. John Depew is coming on to have a discussion about biblical universalism. We're also going to touch on a little bit of Calvinism. And if it comes up, we're going to talk about Karl Barth, both his cat and the famous one.
He's a cat named Karl Barth?
He does.
Okay.
And then next Thursday, I have Steve McRae coming on to discuss agnosticism, and we're going to run through some different belief structures and not only figure out where I'm at, but maybe you can get a better understanding of where you fall inside these belief maps on the God question. If you kind of throw your hands up and say that you're not sure where you fall. I'm still trying to get it scheduled. I have an interview coming up with Rabbi Tovia Singer. We're having some issues getting the times and stuff scheduled. It was supposed to be yesterday, but got canceled due to him being unavailable. We confirmed the date, but didn't confirm the time, and it kind of threw some hiccups and some stuff. So I've now got a direct link to him through messaging. So we're hoping to get that scheduled up, maybe today, maybe scheduled for another day, but I will tweet out and notify you when it happens. I'm looking to do some more discussions next year. I'm hoping to reach out to possibly some Muslims if I can find them, some Hindus. I have a Hare Krishna that I'm trying to that I'm gonna reach out to and want to come on and have a discussion with. Digital Hammurabi, Dr. Josh is gonna be coming on my channel at some point whenever we can find the right topic. Slavery in the Old Testament is the easy go-to, and I kind of want to do something different with it. I want to, find that middle ground somewhere and go somewhere else. We may, you know what? That's it. I got you right now, Josh. So go pull out your old notebooks. So you can come on and we can have a discussion about Satan in the Old Testament.
That would be interesting. Yeah. And where can they follow you for updates?
You can check out my Twitter account. Right now it is at tweetwithjb83, I believe. I'm not even 100% sure if that's what it is.
I think it's
JB Tweets. JB Tweets 83. That's what it is. I was about to pull out my phone and look it up. Yeah, so at JB Tweets 83. If anybody wants to reach me, feel free to email me at talkwithjb83@gmail.com. Just going to throw that out there. So if you'd like to come on and have a discussion, bring a good topic and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you, JB. And if anybody's interested, next Friday morning, I think at 10 o'clock, I'll be having a friend of mine, a universalist come on, an ultimate restorationist come on. We're going to discuss our various views of hell and the afterlife and that kind of thing. So definitely check that out next Friday, not this upcoming Friday, the next one at 10 a.m. So that'll be good. A nice discussion, a similar format to this. So that'll be a good time. But JB, thank you so much. I hope your channel picks up a little bit. I can't wait to hear all the people you're interviewing.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some subs. I'm Please sub to my channel if you're not so far. I'm
Yes.
sitting at like 20 something subs. No, I'm at 35,
Hey,
36.
there you go. That's pretty good. Man, I'm not much
So
higher. So,
come on by.
all right. Awesome. Well, JB, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been a great discussion. So I really appreciate it. So with all that being said, JB, thanks so much. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right.
Hey.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. I think.